Hey everybody, welcome back to another Area 480 podcast. We hope this episode's as incredible as the Incredible Hulk.
Welcome back, guys. As we know, this episode will be more incredible, but yeah, it's been a while since we got on here to talk, so we actually got kind of a lot to talk about, but we'll try to give some good in-depth thoughts about it all.
Yes, sir. We're filming at my house. There was a fight at the White House. Who knows? The Diamondbacks might hit a home run out of their house. We'll see.
Yes, it's in the White House. Oh.
Lakers in five.
All right. I guess we could start in the MLB. It looks like there's a lot, but I think it'll be kind of quick because most of it's just injury stuff.
All right, let's get it.
All right. I'll just start with all the injury stuff, and then we can go on from there. First one though, Jose Ramirez got surgery on his hamate bone. He's out for 5 to 7 weeks. Same surgery that Corbin Carroll and Francisco Lindor and a couple other guys got before the season started. Um, Recovery kind of varies depending on the person. I know Corbin Carroll is having a really good season, and he still has his power that he's had throughout his career, even with that surgery. And I know Francisco Lindor, he had another separate injury that has kept him out for a little bit, but before that, it looked like he was struggling. So I don't know if that's because he always starts slow, if that's a result of his hamate surgery, but yeah, Jose Ramirez out 5 to 7 weeks. How do you guys think that affects the Guardians?
To be fair, he is one of the main shining pieces of this offense when he's on. So losing someone like him is going to be a little bit of an issue for this team. But they are 39 and 35 currently. I believe tied for first in the AL Central. So obviously this is going to be a little bit of a hindrance, but I think once he gets back, he should be able to pick up right where he left off.
Yeah, for sure. In a division this close, and they're just what is it, a half a game back? Um, sorry, it is a little unfortunate. He's been one of their best offensive weapons the last few years. But luckily, it's nothing that'd keep him out the whole season. Like the setback with Corbin Burns, that's something that sucks. But I don't think, we saw how fast Corbin Carroll got back, and I think they'll be okay. I don't think the Twins are going to catch him. I think they'll be able to hold them off and stay in second. I think the White Sox will, hold first while he's out.
Yeah, luckily for them, the Guardians don't rely on their offense very much. At least this year, they're 25th in runs scored. Um, the only really good thing they do is steal bases. They're fifth in bases stolen. But they really rely on their pitching staff with Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, and Parker Messick being a three-headed dragon in the rotation, and Cade Smith closing it out in the bullpen. Yeah, they hold the second spot in the wild card right now in a relatively weak AL. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see the battle between them and the White Sox now that J Ram's out, especially with Murakami looking like he's going to be back soon. But the next piece of injury news we got is Spencer Strider is out 4 weeks. I know he'd been struggling this season. And he's obviously struggled with injuries throughout his career. His velo looked like it was super down his last start, especially his last inning. I know his fastball was barely reaching 90 miles an hour sometimes, but what do you guys think this means for the Braves and their pitching staff? I know they've been struggling recently. They're on a three-game losing streak right now. Just lost 2 games to the Giants today. How do you think this affects them?
I think they'll be all right. I mean, like you kind of said, he hasn't had the best year, and he hasn't really been contributing to the Braves winning. I know he's 4-2 this season, but that kind of just speaks that the offense has stepped up when he's been pitching. And I haven't really broken down every outing he's had or watched it, but he's got a 5.3 ERA. I'm sure you know that's not going to help them a whole bunch, so they're not really losing a lot. When he has everything figured out and he's healthy, he could be a really solid starter, but he's just kind of had some rocky last couple of seasons.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this Braves team. They do have 46 wins. They're up 6.5 games on the Phillies. For a guy that hasn't been playing so well this year, it'll be interesting to see, how this team does without him. Maybe another guy will step up and be able to fill that spot a little bit. And when he gets back, maybe he gets back to that form that everyone knows he can pitch like. But I don't think it's going to be the biggest issue as of right now for this Braves team, especially if they can, keep getting some wins without him because it's a 7-day rotation. So it shouldn't be that big of an issue.
Yeah, obviously everyone knows their lineup and how good that is, but their pitching rotation with Bryce Elder, Chris Sale, Grant Holmes, and Martin Perez have all looked really good. And they also got Reynaldo Lopez to round it out. And then their bullpen is obviously really good with Ranger Suarez and Raisel Iglesias there to close out games for them. Next news we got is Vinny Pasquantino is going to be out 6 weeks, which you hate to see a player like that go out, but the Royals have just really struggled this year. They're 15 games under. Their offense is bottom five in the league in runs scored. So, the pitching staff hasn't looked very good either. Kind of just a disappointing start to the season for them, and to have one of their best hitters be out for that amount of time doesn't look too good for them.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, you don't ever want to see a player get hurt or injured, but, you know, in this situation, it's okay to, lose a bat. It's not really going to set them back. They don't really have any playoff hopes right now. I doubt they'll really ever, or they won't really be able to make a playoff push towards the end of the season either. When you're this far back, I feel like we kind of see how the league's going to play out. I mean, crazier stuff's happened, but I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious that the White Sox and the Guardians are going to be leading that division.
Yeah, they are struggling a little bit this year, which is unfortunate to see because this team's got some pretty good stars that everyone likes to watch. They got the Pasquatch, they got Jack Caglione, they got, some a little bit older guys and Salvador Perez, and I know Bobby was not that old, not old at all, but they also got him. So it's kind of bummed to see them go out this way and then to see one of these leaders of the team go out. It's obviously kind of a bummer for all Royals fans and people that enjoy watching them. But hopefully next year that if they don't end up making the playoff push, which they probably won't, they can, work with this amazing team that they have and, you know, come back and during the season, kind of fix some of the issues they've been having.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing the Royals being a buyer at the trade deadline, but crazier things have happened. The next piece of news we got, Will Smith is going on the IL with neck inflammation. I mean, obviously not too big of news because the Dodgers still lead the league in wins. They have a top five offense in pretty much every category except stolen bases, top five pitching staff. Um, so, even with all the injuries they have, which just kind of speaks to the depth and, how many just good players they have on that team. They have what, like four MVPs on that team or something. So
Yeah,
just speaks to, how good that team is. But obviously going for a three-peat this year, lead the league in wins. What do you guys think losing Will Smith means for them?
I don't think it'll really set them back at all. I mean, Dalton Rushing, I don't like him, but I think he's a good backup to have on your team as a catcher. And, they aren't going to be set back. You kind of covered it. They have offense even without Will Smith. They aren't really hurting from these injuries, and Rushing isn't that bad of a backup.
Let's get one thing clear right here. It is not the team that is going to be suffering from this injury. It is all the fans around the league that have to watch more games of Dalton Rushing starting behind the plate. This guy, man, we can we get a break from him? Like, can we like? I do not care. Trade for Cal Raleigh for all I care. I don't want to see Dalton Rushing anymore.
Yeah,
You
he's
know,
not a likable guy.
even Kike called him out. So, you know, obviously he is an MLB player. I'm kind of just joking, but obviously it's not going to be the biggest issue to them, especially when you're 9 games up of second place in the NL West. And with the way they play, I'm sure it's obviously not going to be an issue.
Yeah, I don't even think he'll be out that long. But next we got O'Neal Cruz fractured his hand. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. I know this news hits harder for Max. The Pirates have been struggling recently. They 3-10, 3-7 in their last 10. I know they won last night and they're up 7-0 in the fourth right now. Um, but obviously struggling from where they were early on in the season, especially in that tough division. What do you guys think losing O'Neal Cruz does for them?
I think we're starting to get in that area where, Connor Griffin got hurt and it was like we're not too worried. Like he wasn't holding the offense up as much as I'm getting a little nervous. Yeah, I'm getting at that point where I'm getting a little nervous now. We lose Connor Griffin, and that was unfortunate, but he wasn't that bat that was really turning this lineup around. And then we lose O'Neal Cruz, so it's a little more nerve-wracking, I guess you could say.
Obviously, I don't want to see O'Neal Cruz go down. I'm a big fan of him. I thought he was always pretty fun to watch. He was in the home run derby last year. Even though I'm not a big Pirates fan, and it seems to be an episode of Who Are the Pirates rolling out this week. Um, but obviously, I know Max is a big Pirates fan, so obviously, I'm kind of bummed for him that this could hinder their playoff chances, especially when they're already fourth in the NL Central and 9.5 games back from first. So hopefully they can, pick up the slack that he's leaving, and maybe when he comes back, they can get back into potentially wild card spot.
Yeah, they got Jake Mangum, who they got from the Rays in the offseason. He's probably going to be their starting center fielder until he gets back. He's a serviceable guy. Um, I mean, obviously he doesn't have the power O'Neal Cruz has. It felt like O'Neal Cruz finally hitting his stride this year offensively. So to see him get hurt for a little bit kind of sucks, but hopefully he'll come back as good as he was. And then last one, I guess we could have talked about when we talked about Spencer Strider, but Acuna strained his hamstring a little while ago, so he's been out. Um, so again, the Braves affected by a couple injuries here, but I think they'll be fine in the grand scheme of things.
I saw a post where somebody said he's just the National League Mike Trout. Is this something that we're gonna start believing soon if he keeps getting injured? This I saw a post earlier where they compared Ronald Acuna to the being the National League Mike Trout. Is this something that if he keeps getting injured could be a real possibility?
I mean, yeah, he's torn ACLs in both his knees, obviously, and then he's had other smaller injuries like this one. Um, but obviously, we know the type of talent he is when he's healthy. He had a MVP season where he went 40-70, I believe, when the Braves were really good in that 2023 season. Um, and obviously, when he's healthy, he plays good, like I just said. But for a Braves fan, I'm sure it sucks to see him just be injured all the time.
Yeah, I mean, he can't be compared to Trout that much because he does have a ring, and Trout will never have a ring. But yeah, I mean, I guess with how consistently he's been injured the last couple of years, it's really unfortunate to see. I like Mike Trout because he was really fun to watch growing up, and kind of the same story with Acuna. When I got really into baseball, Acuna was kind of getting in the league and he was heating up, and to see him get hurt, it sucks. You never want to see it, especially with someone as talented as those two guys are.
Yeah, it sucks to always see him be out. But that's all the injury news we're gonna talk about today. I'm sure there's other smaller ones, um, but yeah. In other news, PCA hit for the cycle the other night. I know there's been a lot of other news around him too concerning what he said to a fan, um, and other stuff. Some of his defense, but obviously he's a really good player. I believe he's top five in the whole league in WAR. Obviously hits for the cycle the other night. What do you guys think about that?
This is a guy that this year has had like a lot of ups and down moments. People have been criticizing his season so far. There's been a lot of like small blunders here and there that people have been kind of clowning him on. And now he was able to hit for the cycle, which is obviously, it's really big. It's who doesn't love to see a cycle hit? Me and Max were talking about it when we were game planning for the podcast earlier this week, and we did notice that his last hit was a single. So imagine being worried that you need to hit a cycle, you just miss it on a single. So obviously that's something that's but he's also had other moments where he had that drop ball in the outfield and ended up hitting a home run after that. So obviously a big cycle for him, a guy that could potentially win MVP if it wasn't for Shohei.
Yeah, I mean, when you're one of the better players in the league, you're going to get hate. You see it all the time. I think he's been fun to watch. I think just because he had a really good year last year, he's got more of a, more pressure on him. But I think he's had a good season. He has had some defensive blunders and some interesting moments throughout the season, but I think he's fun to watch.
Yeah, he also got picked off immediately after hitting that single to complete the cycle. So- But yeah, the last piece of news we got here, um, the Giants, I guess, are listening on trades for Devers, Willie Adames, and Matt Chapman. Um, I mean, it makes sense just because I feel like, they're not going to win a championship this year based on their current roster construction, but it seems kind of wild considering what they gave up to get Devers and then, you know, only to have him for barely a year. Just to trade him is kind of insane, I feel like.
Yeah, that is a little wild. I mean, it was kind of one of the bigger moments last year was Devers going to the Giants. We have a friend who's a Giants fan, and he was freaking out, losing it over it. And the fact that they're just, I mean, it makes sense, like you said, the way their season's going, they're really not even competing in this division at all. They're way far behind. I mean, the D-backs are 9.5 games back, and they're third place. The Giants are 16.5 games back. So they got to make some moves. I understand it, but it is a little wild to think Devers isn't gonna. There's a potential chance Devers isn't gonna be a Giant.
I mean, he doesn't have to worry. He already is giant, but um, obviously it is kind of shocking to see him here barely a year, if that. And he's already going to get moved somewhere. Hopefully this next team he can find a more secure home and not have to worry about getting traded. But this is a lackluster Giants team. They already got rid of Patrick Corbin, Patrick Bailey. Geez, my fault. What am I talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, let me lock in. They already got rid of Patrick Bailey, and moving these guys, kind of building for the future is obviously going to be good. I don't see them really winning a NL West with this team, especially having to go up against the Dodgers. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, they've been pretty mediocre since their just out of nowhere 2021 season where they won 107 games and beat out the Dodgers for the division. But yeah, I guess we could get into the standings here. The Yankees overtook the Rays for first place in the AL East. They're 3.5 games up, and then the Blue Jays, Orioles, and Red Sox are all down there. Um, in the AL Central, the White Sox passed the Guardians for first place, and then Twins, Tigers, and Royals. In the AL West, the Mariners are still first place, followed by the A's, Rangers, Astros, and Angels. In the NL East, the Braves remain up there with a sizable lead at 6.5 games over the Phillies, followed by the Nationals, Marlins, and Mets. In the NL Central, the Brewers remain on top with 45 wins. They're in front of the Cardinals, Cubs, Pirates, and Reds. And then the NL West, of course, like we talked about, the Dodgers are in first place, 9 games up on the Padres, followed by the D-backs, Giants, and Rockies. For the wild card in the American League, the Rays hold the top spot. Guardians and A's are in there too. And then the Blue Jays are a half game back, and the Rangers are a game back. In the National League, the Cardinals hold the top spot, followed by the Phillies and Padres, and then the Nationals, Cubs, D-backs are all within half a game, and the Pirates are 1.5 games back. Is there any, still surprises to you guys, or you kind of just expecting to see this now that we're seeing how the season's going?
This is a season where everything's kind of starting to fall into place. Starting to look a little bit more how it should. Mets are still surprising being at the bottom below the Marlins. But other than that, I think everything's pretty well rounded. Mariners are back on top, all that stuff. So I think this has been shaping out to be a pretty good season, and I'm excited to see how the playoffs shape up.
Yeah, I think the only crazy thing I really took away was just the Phillies, how interesting of a start they had. Not really looking like the Phillies we've seen the last few seasons coming up, and they finally take second place. They're over 500. I didn't even really realize the Phillies were climbing. I know we talk about it every week, but I kind of just forgot they even had that rocky start in the first place.
Yeah, both those are good points. Yeah, I feel like there's not really many surprises left. We've kind of been talking about the standings as we've gone, obviously, but so the divisions are kind of just starting to shake out. Like obviously the Cardinals still being up there is kind of surprising just because everyone thought they would kind of be, at the bottom of that division. But the Padres are kind of falling off here. Um, they've moved all the way back to 9 games behind the Dodgers, obviously, like we talked about. But it's still only June 17th, so still a lot of baseball to be played. All right, if we got nothing else on that, recently the All-Star voting results, early results came out. Um, just highlighting how the voting is going, revealing the top 10 players at each position in each league. Um, I'll just read the top two and then the top six outfielders just because if I read all 10, that'd take forever. For the NL, the top two catchers are Drake Baldwin and Will Smith. In the AL, they are Shea Langeliers and Alejandro Kirk. First baseman in the NL are Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson. In the AL, it's Vlad and Ben Rice. Second base NL is Ozzy Albies and Bryson Stott. In the AL, it's Ernie Clement and Ezekiel Duran. For third base, it's Max Muncy, Alec Bohm, and Junior Caminero and Kazuma Okamoto. Shortstops is CJ Abrams and Mookie Betts. Bobby Witt Jr., Andres Jimenez. DH is Shohei, obviously, and Kyle Schwarber. And then Jordan and George Springer. For the outfield, we got Andy Pajes, Ronald Acuna Jr., Brandon Marsh, Michael Harris, the second, Teoscar Hernandez, Jordan Walker, Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, Cody Bellinger, Byron Buxton, Riley Green, and Julio Rodriguez. All those players I named, if the All Star voting were to end today, they would all get spots on the All Star team, I believe. And then obviously the reserves would be filled out just because every team needs one player. And then obviously fans don't vote on the pitchers, so we wouldn't know who would get in for that. But based off the results we're seeing right now, what are you guys thinking about that?
You can see that the Dodgers have a big influence when it's coming down to it. Hearing that Andy Pajes probably gets a spot in the All-Star game is pretty. I mean, obviously, he has been doing pretty well this season, but that's not something that I really wanted to hear going into the All-Star game.
Yeah, I guess I kind of just realized like Ben Rice has been a breakout player for the Yankees. I mean, their team's always been good, but like Ben Rice is young and he's actually been a stud for him.
Yeah, he's looked really good. I'm surprised he's not in first. I'm surprised Nick Kurtz isn't up up there either. He's all the way at four. Yeah, that's the problem with fan voting is teams like Dodgers players are just gonna get in. Like, no way Freddie Freeman should be above Matt Olson. No way that Mookie Betts should even be anywhere close to shortstop, the top shortstop. No way that Teoscar Hernandez or Andy Pajes should be above James Wood, Corbin Carroll, or Juan Soto. No way Kyle Tucker should be in 10th place. Like, none of these guys have done anything to, prove where they are in the voting besides Shohei and Max Muncy. Will Smith, I guess, even though he's been hurt. Like, I would even put Hunter Goodman, even though he plays in cores above Will Smith. So, like, just to see fan bases like that, just like flooding the voting. Obviously, you vote for your favorite players. It's gonna happen, but like Bryson Stott being in there and Alec Boehm being in there, like those two don't make sense.
No. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Mookie Betts shouldn't even be close to CJ Abrams in my opinion, and yet he's there right there on his tail.
Exactly. It's something that obviously you don't want to see it, but you kind of saw something like this when Zaza Pachulia got into the All-Star game because his whole country voted for him. So it's kind of similar. So obviously, from a fan perspective, you want to see the players that deserve it get up there. But also from looking at it from another point of view, it's good to see that fans care this much about their team that they're willing to vote mid players in, even though they know there's players out there that probably are more deserving.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how Vlad is number one in first base. I don't know how. Andres Gimenez is second at shortstop, but it's the same thing with the Blue Jays as it is with the Dodgers or Phillies. But I guess we could give who we voted for if you guys have that. I know I just did one so I could see, but
I
um,
I've been waiting for this like since I made my vote.
you can go first then.
Perfect. I love voting all-star anything, so I really took it to heart and I really went through stats. I went through how the season's going, like war, all that. I really wanted to take into perspective how what the all-star game means and not just vote straight Diamondbacks players because, they are my favorite team. I really wanted to look at it logistically and statistically and make the perfect picks. And also just not vote for Dodgers players because I have no need to. Their fan base will do it by themselves. So I'm kind of evening it out the playing field for the people that deserve it. So for my National League, at catcher I have Freddie Fermin. First base is T.J. Rumfield. Second base is Brandon Lau. Third base, Brian Hayes. Shortstop, Ezekiel Tovar. Designated hitter Dylan Cruz. Outfield, Jake McCarthy, Mickey Moniak, and Alec Thomas for the National League. And then for the American League, I have for catcher, Austin Wells, Christian Walker at first base, Jose Siri taking second, the GOAT, Josh Rojas, playing third. To round out my infield, I got Blaze Alexander at shortstop. At designated hitter, I got one of the best power hitters in the American League, Anthony Volpe. And then for my outfield, I got Wade Meckler, Dalton Varsho, and Randall Grichuk. Um,
Dang, dude,
I
you,
really
your
wanted
jaw
to
must be sore after all 18 guys, huh? Zip it up.
I just really wanted to focus on shouting out and highlighting players who statistically have been the best at their individual position and really making sure that they can get in where they deserve. I'm sure by the time we get to Max's, we're gonna hear like I don't know O'Neal Cruz and Brian Reynolds for some reason, and when we get to Gabe's, we can guarantee that uh Mason Miller's obviously going to be on. You can't vote for pitchers, but he's going to find a way to put him on there like DH or something. And then Joe Burrow's obviously going to be on there too. So not too surprised.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Um,
Nah,
o-
dude, you're totally wrong about mine.
Obviously those are some respectable votes. I didn't even know you could put Jose Siri in the infield. But yeah, Max, you want to go or you want me to do mine real quick?
Yeah, I'll go. So for AL, I have Shea Langoliers and Nick Kurtz at catcher and first base, just because I mean you really can't deny what Nick Kurtz has been doing, and Shea Langoliers has been the best catcher in the AL. Then I didn't want to go, the Ernie Clement route, which that was what I was leaning towards, but I voted for Travis Bazzana just because I think he's been fun to watch and pay attention to this season, and I like Cleveland. I think they're fun to watch. And then I had Jose Ramirez before his injury. I'll probably change it on my next vote. Then Bobby Witt, Jordan Alvarez, Cody Bellinger, Byron Buxton, Mike Trout. I think Bellinger. I don't know. I mean, like I could vote for Judge, but I want to see Bellinger back in it. And Mike Trout. I think Byron Buxton has had one of his seasons where he's actually been good and stayed healthy. So he's been fun to watch. And then for the AL, can't deny Drake Baldwin. I voted Bryce Harper first base, Brandon Lau second base, Matt Chapman third, CJ Abrams, Schwarber at DH, Corbin Carroll, Jordan Walker, and Tyler Callahan in my outfield. And you can tell that I voted Tyler Callahan after his two home run a game against the Dodgers because I was really high off that. But that's kind of a joke one. I mean, I know Justin's whole all-star vote was a joke, but I only had one joke player.
Uh, Obviously it wasn't a joke. I really looked at it, but I do really like that list that you had there. Obviously all solid players from what I looked at. That was probably my second place voting if I had a second place. But the one thing I do wish is that I would have put Byron Buxton. I just love this guy. He's been playing amazing this year, so hopefully he can make it and get that shout out that he deserves.
Yeah, I like all those picks too. Um, they're probably if I didn't agree, they're probably my second place ones. Um, but I guess I'll just do mine real quick. National League catcher, I have Drake Baldwin, and then I got Matt Olson at first base. Second base, I have Bryce Terang. Third, also, should preface just like Justin, I didn't vote for any Dodgers. Um, you know, just
I
because.
Yeah, I think we're all in that same boat.
Third base, I got Curtis Mead from the Nationals, and then CJ Abrams also from the Nationals at shortstop. DH, I got Kyle Schwarber. Outfield, I got James Wood, Juan Soto, and Corbin Carroll. Um, American League at catcher, I got Shea Langoliers. First base, Ben Rice. Second base, Clement. Third base, I got Junior Caminero. Shortstop, I put Colson Montgomery just because he's a dog, even though Bobby Witt probably deserves it more. DH, I got Yordan Alvarez, and then outfield, I got Byron Buxton, Aaron Judge, and Mike Trout. I know Judge is injured, so it'll probably change soon, but I put Trout. You know, he's been good, but I just want to see Trout back in it because I feel like that'd be fun. But he also has been deserving of a spot too.
Yeah, for sure, valid list. I think, at least 50% of our All-Star game votes probably match up, so I can't disagree with you there.
Exactly. Another solid list. We did kind of go with the theme of no Dodgers players because for every one of our votes, we cast a Dodgers fan. We'll cast like six for their favorite player. Um, and if you're listening, I did vote for Alec Thomas, but he doesn't count as a Dodger because he's currently on the Comets.
Yeah,
So,
he hasn't played for them.
so just wanted to preface that. But obviously, I think it's very solid all around. I think probably 95% of our picks make the All-Star game combined. So obviously, I think we're doing pretty good as a podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
hopefully
can't wait to
better than
see
our
Tyler Callahan in it.
NBA. Hopefully better than our NBA playoff picks. But all right, let's get into the NFL. You guys ready for that? It'll be quick.
Yeah.
All right. First thing we got to talk about Brennan Sorsby. He was ruled that he was allowed to play, but then all the other Big 12 teams started complaining, which obviously makes sense. So then he just went out and declared for the supplemental draft. Um, big decision, I guess. He's just gonna kind of skip his year this year and just go straight to the NFL. Um, what do you guys think of that whole situation? Like he was allowed to play, he wasn't allowed to play, then he was, then everyone complains, and now he's just out. How are you guys feeling about that?
Obviously, it's interesting to see how the supplemental draft works out. I know the last time there was one, the Cardinals did end up selecting Jalen Thompson. And I see a lot of Cardinals fans saying that they need to go out here and snipe Brandon Sorsby for like a fifth round pick, which, I'm not really too sure if that's the best idea or not. But obviously, it's going to be interesting to see where he does land, especially with especially that he admitted it, that he was gambling. It'd be interesting to see if any teams take a risk on him, knowing that, yeah, he was doing that in college. Will he continue that streak in the NFL or is he off of that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that's a concern for everybody is kind of just, you have a talented player that you could have a, opportunity to jump on, but in the back of your mind, you're aware of why he's in this situation and what it could turn into if he's on your team.
Yeah, and all of us, our favorite college football teams are in the Big 12, so to see one of the contenders lose out on their starting quarterback, like it's not good news, I guess, just because that whole situation, how it went down, but to see one of the top contenders in that conference get weaker, it just makes it a little bit better for us. All right. But yeah. Next, Cam Jordan signs back with the Saints on a 1 year deal. Obviously, nothing too special. He's getting up there in age, but Saints could be a decently fun team to watch with Tyler Shuck in his second year, Jordan Tyson coming in. You got obviously Chris Olave's been there for a little bit, so it could be a decent team to watch. I don't think they'll do anything crazy this year, but
Cam Jordan, I've listened to him on some podcasts, and I like the player he's off the field. He's really confident in his game. Like you said, he's getting up there in age, but I guess it makes sense for him to go back to New Orleans. He spent his entire career there. It'd be fun to kind of see him finish it out there. I mean, he is an eight-time Pro Bowler, so it's not like a terrible signing. I know he's old, but I'm sure he'll contribute to a lot of plays.
Exactly. He is an Arizona native. He was born here. He went to Chandler High School. So obviously seeing him in the league is obviously exciting for people that were born in Arizona. But this is a guy that has pretty much given his whole like career to the Saints. He's been there since day one, like since he was drafted. Obviously, they've not been the best team since he's got there. They, ever since Drew Brees left, that team's kind of been on the downfall. But he's stuck with them. But he's obviously leader in the locker room, great veteran. So hopefully he doesn't end up bouncing around the league once his career is over. He can stay a couple more years, finish it out there. He's given so much to the New Orleans community. he loves that team. And, hopefully he can have a great year, maybe get another contract, give everything he has left in the tank, finish it there, and maybe mentor a couple of guys at the same time.
Yeah, he was part of those Saints defenses, that were top in the league throughout the 2010s. So to see him retire there will be cool. But next up, we got Rishi Rice. He got released from prison the other day. I don't really know if he's gonna play the whole season or what's going on with that, but at least he's out there now. So if he can stay out of trouble somehow, maybe he'll be able to play week one. We'll see about that. What do you guys think about that?
I can't say anything about Rashid Rice without mentioning that video of him getting released. I think it was a really awkward, kind of weird video. He got released and he started running out of wherever he was at, and a bunch of people were following him. But he is just fresh off a knee surgery and he's running in a parking lot while people are following him. And the first thing he does is gets in his car and he whips it out of the parking lot, like right through a crosswalk where somebody's standing in the crosswalk as he whips through it. I don't know how fast he was going, but you'd think that even if he wasn't driving, he'd be, super cautious leaving, you know, because he's been there for multiple driving incidents. So hopefully, we can figure out what's going on and get back into that right mindset and help this Chiefs team, make another Super Bowl run.
I think his contract should say must take an Uber wherever you go. This guy needs to stay off of the road. He's gotten into so much trouble over it. There has to be some deal that's made that he has to be monitored and he cannot drive on his own because it's ridiculous now.
Exactly. Ubers only. He's gonna figure out how to get a Waymo to start street racing people.
Yeah, I'll freaking bet his Uber driver, $1,000 just so he can get that rush again or something.
Yeah, he just needs to find a way to stay home and out of trouble. Um, obviously the Chiefs don't have many weapons without him, so hopefully for them he'll be playing. But just some quick.
They also did just resign L'Jarius Sneed.
Oh yeah,
Big, I was just what's 1 year deal. He's been on the Titans the past couple of seasons, but he was amazing on their last Super Bowl run and was really one of the main parts of that defense alongside Trent McDuffie to help them secure that Super Bowl ring.
yeah, which is big after losing some defense this offseason. But yeah, Jalen Coker got extended for 3 years, 35 million with the Panthers. Obviously just keeping some of their weapons around while they try to, keep Bryce Young's development going. Because it looks like he'll be the obvious starter that going to this year. With Tet McMillan, um, who was rookie of the year last year, and then Xavier Legette hasn't really looked like what we thought he would, but just to have some decent weapons for Bryce Young, I guess.
I'm not mad at it. He's, a solid receiver. He's only 24 years old. They're still trying to develop. Obviously, they have you know, Ted McMillan, who's going to be solid. They have like Xavier Legette, who I think, Gabe said that he wasn't playing up to his potential, but this is someone that could blossom and be a solid, uh, wide receiver two and maybe even a wide receiver one if Tet goes down. But hopefully he can stay consistent because there seems to be the past couple seasons with Bryce Young a theme where he plays absolutely abysmal the first couple weeks and then figures it out later in the season. So hopefully he can find his way and be that solid starting quarterback for this Panthers team. And I know they made the playoffs last year, so hopefully they can make it again and even maybe win a game or two.
Yeah, I don't think this is a bad signing at all. Keep those weapons you had with you. You're doing something right last season. Let's keep it going. I don't think it was a bad deal at all.
Yep. Just a quick little note about him, and then Sean Payton, coach of the Broncos, got a 5-year extension. Obviously he had them playing really good football last year, with one of the top defenses in the league. He has Bo Nix looking really good, and then obviously they added Jalen Waddle this offseason as well to try to bolster their offense. So they're looking to look like one of the top teams in the AFC this year.
This is a team that probably makes the Super Bowl or at least um makes a really strong push if Bo Nix didn't go down against the Bills. Obviously, that was a solid Patriots team, but this guy's been doing amazing since he's gotten Bo Nix. Obviously, rocky couple starts when he had Russell Wilson, but obviously he's kind of found his stride, so it's going to be exciting to see. He did his thing with the Saints, so seeing what he can do with this Broncos team is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, when he has all of his pieces, that team could be, like you said, a Super Bowl contender. It's unfortunate you beat the Bills and then you lose your starting quarterback. Maybe the reason you did win that game in the first place. I wanted to see the Bills win, but it's even more of a shame when a team you want to see win the whole thing goes out against a team that loses their starting quarterback and they're not going to make any further push. I think it'll be fun to see him with a healthy Bo Nix and a healthy roster going into next year.
Yeah, and then Tucker Kraft, suffered a big injury last year, says he's expecting to play week one, which is big for the Packers, especially after losing, Romeo Dobbs in the offseason, and then, obviously Jordan Love looking to continue how he's been playing and see if they can compete with the Rams in the NFC.
Yeah, rest in peace, Tucker Kraft. Obviously, it's going to be a big thing for him to get back. He's one of the best pieces on this team, and having another big receiver down there, obviously tight end, but having another big guy that can catch the ball is going to be big for Jordan Love if he wants to continue working on his game and bringing this team to a Super Bowl if he's able to do that.
Yeah, he's one of their most used weapons on that team, and I think when he shows up and has a decent season, that's good for the Packers and it helps them have an even better season.
That's all we got for the NFL today. I'm gonna pass it off to Justin, and he's gonna talk about the NHL.
Uh, I appreciate that. The NHL does come to an end in Las Vegas with the Hurricanes taking the Stanley Cup. Obviously, this is a team that's been on a little bit of a drought compared to the Golden Knights. I was hoping that the Golden Knights were going to win. I might have said, I can't exactly remember who I said I thought was going to win, probably the Canes. But obviously, I was hoping Golden Knights would win just because they're a little bit closer to home. They play in the desert. They play in one of my top favorite states besides Arizona because I just love the Vegas Strip. It looks like the architecture's cool. But obviously, we got some amazing games out of them. We got some really close games. We got the Hurricanes coming back when they're down big. They got just some amazing goals, amazing scores or goals, whatever. And then they had a backup goalie pretty much be the hero those last couple games. And, as someone that was hoping that the Golden Knights were going to win to really stick it to the league and show that hockey does belong in the desert. Obviously, good job for the Hurricanes. They played their hearts out. Bryce Jarvis, whatever, gets his ring. But obviously, congratulations, Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered it all. I wanted to see the Knights win. I have family in Vegas and they're all Knights fans. I think the Hurricanes were a fun team to watch and I don't know. I was a little disappointed the Knights couldn't win, but I mean, I'm sure you're real happy about Jarvis getting a ring.
You know, um, whatever he played good, but um, one of the things I did think was funny though was the head coach of the Knights did say that he was just going to leave all of his clothes in Carolina because he was going to be back for Game 7, and they lost in Las Vegas. And the social media team posted that they were going to ship his clothes back to him, but they were a little busy, obviously celebrating the big win.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously it was a good series going in, just because it was two of the most the hottest teams in the playoffs, most dominant teams. Obviously it's been stated that I don't really watch hockey, so I wasn't following this too closely, but it was it was a good series. It was good. Oh yeah, it was good to see the title finally go back to Carolina. Um, you know, it's always fun to see a team that hasn't won in a while win. Um, but yeah, good series. All right. You guys, I guess you guys want to move into the World Cup now?
Sure.
Oh, I've been waiting to talk about the World Cup.
Yeah, I can't lie. The only game I've watched is the USA game, and then once it became 3-0, I was like, dang, this game's kind of over, so I stopped after that. But obviously, it was good to see the USA come out and dominate. I know a lot of people are like, why are we celebrating wins over these small countries? But then you see,
Spain.
then you see Spain come out there and tie, and it's not, at the end of the, hmm. at the,
Gee.
at the end of the day, they're all, professional athletes. Like today, Portugal tied with the Congo, Dominican Republic. What is it called? I don't know what it's called. What does
Holy.
DR stand for? Um, the
Holy.
Dominican Republic of the Congo. Shut up. Democratic Republic. What's it called? Isn't that what it's called? The Democratic Republic of the Congo?
I don't
What's it
know, dude.
called?
It's just funny watching you trip like this.
Anyways, yeah, Spain comes out and ties. So you got to win the gimmies. Um, so to see USA win in dominant fashion like that was pretty fun to watch.
I this is like one of the best times. I love sports in general, but getting to watch teams, play for their country, especially USA, like it's like so like it gives me chills watching games. We earlier like last year we had Team USA basketball beat France. We had in this Winter Olympics we had men's hockey and women's hockey and the Paralympics beat Canada on some crazy insane games. We have a big fight coming up later that I want to talk about that USA just took advantage of. And obviously, I know I don't want to get too high on USA right now. They've been one of the more abysmal teams. They're kind of for the most part, kind of a laughing stock of, the World Cup, unfortunately. But they do get a big win over Paraguay. Obviously, this is a team that hasn't been around for many World Cups, and it's a team they should have beat. But to score 4 goals on this team is really good. This is a team that last time they played in the World Cup, they scored 3 goals in 4 games, and this year they were able to score four goals in one game. Obviously, Bolgan gets 2 goals. Who's they talk about him being accidentally born in America, moving back to Europe, specifically England, where he's from, being part Nigerian and playing in France. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on, and being able to play represent USA is crazy. But it's a good look for him. Obviously, if he doesn't, he's going to have to sit behind one of the world's top forwards in uh Harry Kane, one of the league's top forwards in Kane. Probably sit there another couple years before he even gets a chance, and now he's able to represent the U.S. and be one of the top players along with Pulisic. So obviously, amazing game. It was so much fun to watch, and hopefully USA can carry this momentum against Australia, win their group stage, and maybe even make it to a round of 16.
Yeah, it's been a good time for USA fans recently, so hopefully they can keep up in the World Cup. I know, obviously, the powerhouses out there lurking, waiting for them, but it'll be interesting to see if they'll be able to pull something off.
Exactly. And then I know Gabe mentioned it, but one of the things I did want to mention is Spain, who's supposed to be one of the top teams, obviously. Um, obviously Spain is one of the top teams. They seem to always sit around the top teams. They have one of the best players in soccer right now that plays for Barcelona, Lamine Yamal. Obviously he is injured, but they do end up tying with Cabo Verde, whose goalie is 40 years old. But this is just like one of the stuff that like makes you love watching when all these countries are playing against each other in the big moments, that these people just love their country, and the fact that they're able to play for something bigger than their own individual self. They put on games that you wouldn't expect. Obviously, it is just a tie. They didn't end up winning, but everyone thought that this team was just going to get blown out by Spain. And obviously, Spain not as at its full potential currently, but just being able to say they tied with one of the top teams in the world is just something that they're going to remember forever.
Yeah, for sure. It's always fun watching these smaller teams battle and keep up with these powerhouse teams. So, it's always fun to watch those games.
Yeah, I don't really want to compare it to the World Baseball Classic because it's not really the same thing, but um, having these smaller teams, in the World Baseball Classic that come out and try to compete with powerhouses like USA and Japan, it's kind of that same feeling. So to see the underdog come out, you got to feel good for them to, even tie with a powerhouse like Spain.
Yeah, and just I know there's so much going on. We could spend hours talking about the World Cup. The last thing that I really wanted to mention was Messi does have a hat trick in his first game back for Argentina. This is a guy that after winning the World Cup last time, that he said he wasn't sure if he was going to make it to another one. Obviously, been playing in Miami, goes back to a world stage and does end up getting a hat trick. So, seeing that he still can do that at his age, obviously not one of the best teams in the world that he did it against, but nonetheless still impressive. Do you guys think that this is a team that could potentially go back to back for World Cups, or is there another team lurking that could possibly take that top spot like France?
I mean, obviously it's possible. They're, one of the powerhouses of soccer, especially since Messi's been here, obviously. But um, there's teams like France, like Justin just said, with Mbappe, who I know had his own impressive opening game. Um, so I think it'll be a good, obviously it'll be a good tournament. You never really know who's gonna win, but those two teams are probably the favorites if I had to guess.
Yeah, that hat trick was insane too. I was just saw a few things about it. It was his 61st hat trick of his professional career, and that I think that brought him up to tying the most amount of goals in the World Cup at 16. So I don't know. That's just crazy. I mean, I know, like you said, it's not a hard team to do that against, but it's still pretty historic and cool to see.
Yeah, and I know this isn't really sports related, but it's kind of tied into the World Cup. But all these fans and players that are coming over to America for the first time and just seeing everything that America has to offer is like pretty funny. You're always seeing someone new go to a Waffle House and just being blessed with that. The joke is that they're not eating beans and toast anymore. They're getting, little bites muffins. So it's obviously funny to see what new thing they're going to. They're going to Texas Roadhouse. Like,
Yeah.
this is just funny to see every time someone posts something new. I think that's pretty much, it on the World Cup. We'll kind of keep you updated here and there. Obviously, we're not the biggest soccer fans in the world, but when USA is playing, I'm gonna be there watching. Anyway, moving on to another championship style thing. We got the NBA. We're just gonna start off. How can you not start off? The Knicks are your world champions this season. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I know I doubted them the whole way. I thought they were gonna lose to the Cavs, and I thought they were gonna lose to the Spurs, and obviously that didn't happen. They only lost 3 games all playoffs, I believe. Or no, that's not right because they lost twice to the Hawks. Or is that Anyways, they went on a crazy run. It wasn't expected by me, even though their team is undoubtedly one of the, has some of the best depth in the whole league. But Jalen Brunson just knows how to get it done in the clutch time, even when he starts the game slow, as evident by the Spurs having a double-digit lead in every game of the series. So that made for some good games as well. Just watching the Knicks come all the way back in pretty much every game. They were all really good games at the end, so can't complain. I'm happy for Knicks fans that they got to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild the whole lead up to this finals. You look at the Knicks path and it looked a lot easier than the Spurs. The Spurs have to fight off the defending champs and then, for them to be able, I mean, I thought it was a bold prediction to say the Knicks could push it to 6 games, let alone win the whole thing. But, it was a wild series. It seemed close most of the time. It just didn't seem like the Spurs could keep the Knicks off.
Yeah, this is a series which the Spurs look like they had like I didn't even think the Knicks could win. Obviously, I don't want to. This is a solid team, They have Mikal Bridges, as a Suns fan, so I was kind of hoping he could probably get his first ring. But if you were a fan and you just watched the first half of every game and turned it off, you'd probably be surprised that the Spurs didn't end up sweeping this Knicks team. But that's obviously something that you need to be able to do if you want to win a championship. You can't just be a first half team and hope that your first half carries you to the championship. Obviously, seeing the Knicks be down 29 points and being able to rally back and win that game is something that's what it takes to win a championship. So the fact that they were able to do that multiple times, especially being down the way they were some of these games, is huge. And being able to see Macau finally get that chip is exciting to see. They were up 2-0 and then they lost the next game. And I was like, oh no, Macau just can't win when he's up 2-0 last time. The Suns were up
Yeah.
2-0 against the Bucks and weren't able to close it out. So I was getting a little worried there for a second. But honestly, I think this is probably one of the best chances the Knicks have at winning a championship. Obviously, I don't want to doubt them, but the East is just going to get healthier. They're going to get, a little bit better, so it's going to be tough for them. But this Spurs team is just going to get more focused. They're going to get older. They're going to get more experience. So this is going to be, obviously a big moment for this Spurs team, especially when Wemby loses in the gold medal game and in the finals. It's going to give him more momentum to win.
Yeah, it's been a rough go for Wemby lately, but obviously he's still really young and really good, so I think he'll be back. Um, oh yeah, I think I predicted the Spurs to win in 5 games. Obviously that seems to be a pretty bad prediction now, but yeah, I'm happy for the Knicks and I'm happy for their fans that they got to see that.
I mean, obviously, this is probably one of the better scenarios that was going to happen because the Knicks fans are probably going to burn New York down no matter what. But at least they're a little bit more happy instead of just, burning it down out of rage. Out of rage, excuse me.
Yeah, so next up we got someone that's close to us. Um, Devin Booker announces that he's switching his number from number 1 to number 15. Um, Obviously this is kind of shocking just because he's been number 1. I know he's number 15 on the Olympics. But it'll be interesting to see him wearing a new number this year. What do you guys think?
Obviously, it's never a bad reason to have to buy another D Book jersey to get that new number 15. But, obviously, he's won two gold medals. Devin Booker, he's won a gold medal in that number. His dad wore that number, so it's obviously a little bit more like a little bit more family tie a little bit when he was actually winning stuff. And I know they're kind of comparing him to Kobe, how Kobe had a mid career number switch from 8 to 24, and Kobe did it. I'm trying to think, it was either like I think it was 2006 when he did it, and now it's Devin Booker doing it in 2026. So obviously that's interesting to see. It's gonna be weird to see him out there rocking number 15. And not only that, but it was kind of a weird move, like kind of just random. Like all of a sudden one day we get for Devin Booker, who's number 1, to now being number 15, which is gonna be weird for if he gets his number retired, but it should be fun to see.
I'm sure Jason Tatum is punching the air that Booker thought of it before him. It'll be fun to see
Yeah.
him in a different number. It'll be weird, but I mean, he's won something in the number 15. We haven't seen him win anything in the number 1, so maybe it'll be good luck.
Oh my, Shams just tweeted out Jason Tatum changed his number to 24 and text Kobe Bryant.
If I had to
And
guess,
then he's sending him some message.
if I had to guess, he's just gonna they'll retire number 1 probably, just because that'll be the number he'd worn most for his career, and played the best in. But I guess you never know.
If he wins a if he wins a chip in 15, we might have to consider putting that
Maybe.
15 up in the rafters.
Do we really think they got the championship roster coming in anytime soon, though?
I mean, that's up to debate. We saw what the Knicks did.
I guess, yeah.
Obviously, Jalen Brunson did take a pay cut, and that worked out. So maybe Matt Ishbia can cook some stuff up. He's a very forward owner, and we can see that soon.
What the heck? Yeah, those are good points, but um, I guess we'll have to see. That would be awesome if it happened. Um, yeah. Next up, though, if you guys don't got anything else, we can talk about what's been NBA headline the last few off seasons. Obviously, is Giannis trade rumors. I've been all over Instagram and TikTok, X, seeing proposed trades for him to the, Celtics, to the Warriors, to the Cavs, all these teams that obviously could use someone like Giannis, but might not have the trade capital to get him. So if they end up trading him, it'll be interesting to see where he goes, if it'll be a multi-team trade, what the package looks like. Um, but yeah, we'll see if if the Thunder trade Game 7 checked for him. I've seen that one a bunch. Uh, but yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see him in a Cavs uniform.
I've seen some stuff. Like I saw that Tyler Hero's brother commented on his most recent post a picture of a buck. So potentially he's going to the Heat. but I also saw, a potential Jalen Brown trade for him, which would be interesting to shake up the East a little bit. But I saw Jalen Brown said that if he does get dealt for Giannis, he has no intention on staying with the Bucks and would be more interested in getting shipped off somewhere else. So you never know what could happen with these trades or where he's going to potentially go.
Yeah, I'd want to see Giannis and Dean Wade duo of the year next year.
Yeah, it'll, obviously whatever team gets him is going to change the trajectory of their franchise. That's just the kind of player Giannis is. It'll be interesting to see if a team ruins their future to get him, and what kind of repercussions or reward that could have. But that'll all be seen in time, I guess. The next trade rumor that's been circulating, just because he said he feels like he can lead his own team, and everyone's cooking up mock trades for him now, is Jalen Brown, from the Celtics. Obviously he could go back somewhere in a Giannis trade. Because if the Bucks trade Giannis, they won't really have anyone to lead that team. So Jalen Brown could be their number one guy. I've seen trades of him going to somewhere like the Clippers or something like that, just to like join Kawhi there while he's still there, and be the number one guy there. It'll be interesting to see where he goes, and if he does go somewhere, if they let him be the number one, and how good he'll do in that role.
Yeah, this would be a weird, you know, thing to see, seeing Jalen Brown not in a Celtics uniform. He's kind of been Jason Tatum's number two for a while now, which is kind of arguable because he had like an MVP season almost this year, especially um, when Jason Tatum was out. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if he does get dealt somewhere, what he can do for another franchise. And I know Gabe was using some big words earlier for the perfect game guy, but changing a trajectory of a franchise, I don't know if he's the guy to do it. Maybe he can't with the way he played last year, but is obviously going to be a super solid piece for any team that wants him.
Yeah, obviously a good player. He led the Celtics most of the year this year without Jason Tatum being there, obviously, because of his injury. So if he can play like that, I feel like he could do a decent job leading a team, but it'll just have to be seen if it happens. Our last news just happened today, but Trey Young opted out of his player option with the Wizards. It'll be interesting to see if he goes back there, especially after what the Wizards did to, acquire him. And then obviously they got Anthony Davis. If those two could be healthy for a full season, they could make it interesting, kind of run. They got this young team with Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly, some decent guys. So to have those two, I know they're getting older, obviously, but they could mix up the standings in a interesting way if both those guys played a whole season for them. So it'll be interesting to see if Trey goes there, if he'll try to go somewhere that he thinks is more of a contending team.
Exactly. It is something that is kind of, obviously they don't really have the best career trajectory ahead of them. Thanks, Gabe. Um, but obviously he was saying that he was committed to playing for the Wizards. I believe he said that earlier this season when he first got out there, and they got Anthony Davis. So this is a very interesting team to look at. They got some young guys. They got him. They got somehow Sharif Cooper back into the swing of things. They kind of got him out of G League purgatory. But turning down almost 40 million is a lot of money. So if he does leave and he goes somewhere else, that would be really shocking to see. But who doesn't like to shake up the league a little bit?
All right, that's all
Okay.
we got for the NBA. I know Justin's excited for our next segment, so I'll let him introduce what we're going to be doing.
Man, this next segment is gonna be super fun. We haven't had a full segment of this on the show. First time, like we had a couple ups of this, I know for sure, but to be able to talk about this is crazy. Um, we're talking about the one, the only UFC event that took place on the White House lawn in Washington, D.C. Let me just start off by saying, what an amazing event. This is the only event in like card in UFC history that had every single fight end in a knockout or TKO. Um, but what an insane fight. We got some amazing things to talk about coming up. Obviously, just want to start by mentioning that these fighters got to practice in the White House. They got to walk out of the White House rooms. They got to start. Some of them got to even lucky enough to start in the Oval Office. They had an amazing. They gave a bunch of stuff to veterans. They each were accompanied by a Medal of Honor recipient, some 9/11, firefighters. What a great show. Everything looked amazing. It was outside. Beautiful setup. But I think we just get into some of the fights if you guys don't have anything to say about, any of the stuff that happened beforehand.
Yeah, man, I can't match your energy. I think we should just get into the fights.
Perfect. First off, we have Diego Lopez does knock out Garcia. First couple of fights didn't make it past the first round. This is one of the more exciting fights throughout the night. What did you guys think of it?
I'll just
Uh,
preface this by saying that I was only able to watch the last two fights just because um I was doing something during the other ones, but um let's just say
Homework.
so I won't have much input on these ones. Obviously I know every fight ended in a finish. Um which is exciting to watch more than just like a decision, obviously. Um so they're all exciting fights obviously, but I won't have much input until we get to the last two.
I thought it was a fun fight to start off this amazing event. No one, you're looking forward to, the last two or three fights in an event, but I think, this one had my attention. It was a really fun one to start off, and it ended quick. Was it second round? It was a good fight.
Yeah, this is a great way to start off the card. You have the American president's very own Navy band, I believe that's what it was, singing La Chona for Diego Lopez as he comes out. Obviously, he does beat the American, which is a little bit of a bummer, but it kind of shows how much this card means to everybody that isn't an American because he did go afterwards to celebrate the win with the crowd. So that was obviously something fun to see. Next up, we have Bo Nickel knocks out Dawkins. So far, I had a little bit of a little bet going. I was 2 for 2 at this point. Bo Nickel looked pretty good. Obviously, gonna probably move up into the rankings this week after or he might have already moved up into the top 15. Great fight. Obviously, I think Dawkins is still a great fighter. Next fight, he can obviously come back.
Yeah, I actually had a bet too, and I got all of them right except the last two. Um, I I went with the favorites on the last two, and they both lost, obviously. Um, I was rooting for Nickel to win, obviously, to make my bet cash, so I'm glad he won. Um, so yeah, it was cool to see him win.
Yeah, I like this fight a lot. I looked forward to it. Nichols, a Penn State legend, and I really thought it was going to be more wrestling and grappling. I actually got to see a lot more striking. From what I understand, both these fighters were really good on the ground and good wrestlers. Bo Nickel was a great wrestler. He has a lot of records at Penn State. So to see it kind of end in a striking fashion was really fun to watch.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Next up, we have Rufy versus Michael Chandler. This is where my bet did end. I bet on Michael Chandler. This is something that I knew Rufy was going to win. I pretty much, Michael Chandler's been getting knocked around since his last win against Tony Ferguson in 2022. But I figured that the moment being able to fight for his country on the White House lawn was going to be, what it would take to get him over the hump and maybe get a win, his first win since 2022. Obviously, that doesn't happen. He gets pretty much pieced up pretty bad. He kind of ran around a little bit and then got pieced up by Rufy. But other than that, that's obviously where my bet ended for me. But obviously, another good fight. Rufy does propose to his wife after the fight, so that was pretty fun to watch. And it was also pretty fun, to watch a good fight where somebody did get kind of messed up.
I'm surprised we didn't get to see the call out. But maybe we'll see it after Conor McGregor's next fight.
I hope you didn't hear
Have
that.
you guys not seen those videos
I just didn't
on
even hear it.
TikTok?
You like covered your mic.
Michael Chandler's memes about calling out Conor McGregor. I get Conor McGregor the same way he does it.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously the fight ended in the first round, which is cool to see. Love to see a knockout, or just a finish in general. My bet continued here, even though it breaks my heart that I ended it later. But Yeah, another good fight. It's always good to see, a quick one like that. That means that they're really going at it, trying to put the other person away.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Chandler got embarrassed. There's really not much else to say about
Yeah,
it. He got his face
sad to
beaten.
see the American lose at the White House, but other than that,
It might be time for him to consider retirement. He just hasn't looked it like himself ever since 2022. But anyway, next on to two of my most favorite fighters in the UFC, some of the most fun to watch. This sadly, Derek Lewis is one of my favorite. But we knew we were gonna get an amazing press conference or post fight interview, no matter who won. But Hokit does kind of beat the brakes off of Derek Lewis, unfortunately. This is another one I had where I lost it on my bet because I thought, Derek Lewis did mention that this is his first ever training camp where he never took a day off. He had the president specifically asking why he wasn't on the card. Another really hardcore American. He when he fought um, the Russian, he got a call from Trump asking him to knock him out. He goes in there, he knocks him out. I saw, and Josh Hoke has been kind of running his mouth, so I figured that would be enough to really get him over the hump. Obviously, it didn't, and I pretty much figured Hoke was going to win. He's for a really fast heavyweight, former running back, can move really good. He's kind of on the up and up, and did end up getting the KO on Derek Lewis.
Yeah, this fight was honestly, the one I was looking forward to the most. I think it was going to be a really entertaining fight. A guy like Derek Lewis with his power and an up and comer like Josh Hokett, who's just always on the headlines for something crazy. And like you said, he's fast. I thought this was one of the more entertaining ones. I thought it was just funny, people are saying in that arm bar against Derek Lewis that Josh Hokett had him in. You know, they're saying he was just messing around. Everyone's making fun of him for not being able to finish an arm bar out, but he holds it to the second round and then just ends that round quickly. But this fight was really entertaining for me. This was one of the ones I was looking forward to the most.
yeah, obviously, even if you don't follow UFC, I feel like you know who Derek Lewis is just because of his post game, interviews. But this one ends in the second round with another finish. Um, I got this pick correct too. Hokit moves to 10-0. Um, but yeah, just another good fight.
Yeah, he was a man with a plan, and that plan was to just absolutely embarrass Derek Lewis.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I love watching the big black beast fight, especially when he has the most knockouts in UFC history. Obviously, didn't add to his lead. But you're gonna have a good fight when you have a guy throwing up on stage like during his weigh-in, and saying that after he wins, he's gonna follow Derek Lewis to the parking lot and beat him up some more. So, all around pretty fun fight, no matter what.
Am I right, America?
If I right, America. Next up, we got the, Sugar Sean, Arizona. He's been here for over 10 years. Fighting Zahabi, a Canadian, who's been on a pretty hot couple fight streak, couple wins, pretty hot win streak recently. Obviously seeing a Canadian fight an American is pretty big, and you do get to see Sean O'Malley knock him out. And as he's falling, he's saluting
Yeah.
mid knockout, which is always so fun to see.
Yeah.
Just
No,
think of
this
the
fight
fight.
was awesome. This fight was great. I mean, people are saying early stoppage and all this crap, but Zahabi could barely walk. So I don't think it was the wrong call. And I think the celebration was great. The second he gets up, he salutes all the troops out there, gives them what, three salutes? Is that what it was? That was just awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about his emoting there. I got this pick right too. I was feeling good at this point. This one ended in the second round as well. Obviously, Sean O'Malley's a legend of the UFC. And like I keep saying, it's good to see a finish in a fight.
I got this pick right too. I know Sean O'Malley has been kind of a little bit over the place. Lost two title defenses to Marab, but this is a good bad bounce back fight. And it was pretty fun to see, him knock out a Canadian on the White House lawn. Really made me feel American right there. I was hoping Freebird would come on after that, but anyway. Moving on to the arguably most controversial fight of the night. Cyril Gane does knocked out Alex Pereira. He he does clock him a little bit, and he's pretty much on the ground, and then he starts laying some elbows to the side of the head. People think it was the back of the head. Herb Dean lets that fight go pretty long, honestly, and then he gets knocked out again against the side of the cage, which he was he was taking some real headshots there for a little bit. I'm not surprised that Cirogan won. I got this pick right. I this is Pereira's first time moving up to heavyweight. When he was at middleweight for a little bit, he did lose his first fight to Israel Adesanya. So moving up, kind of learning what it's like to fight at that weight, it was going to be interesting. I know his fight camp, he did look a little slow in some of the videos I saw. So I did get this pick right, and Cirogan's been kind of craving that championship. Obviously, again, he's an interim for the second time in his career, so which is unfortunate, but hopefully he can get that rematch against Tom Aspinall and finally get the undisputed.
Yeah, dude, I mean, I would not want to be on the other end of some strikes from Gone. That dude is a beast. I mean, I wanted to see Pereira win, but I knew he wasn't going to. It's just a hard matchup for someone who just got moved up to heavyweight to go against. So, I mean, it went exactly how I expected it to.
Yeah, this was the first fight I was able to watch. Um, Obviously, Pereira didn't really look that good out there. Like Justin described, he was taking some elbows and fists to the back of the head, maybe. Um, but yeah, good for Gon to, get that interim title. It was over pretty early in round two again. This was the first prediction I got wrong on the whole night. Um, but yeah, it was a fun fight. It's good to see, someone just go after their opponent like that and finish them off pretty early.
And Alex Pereira is potentially pursuing legal action against Herb Dean and calling for Herb Dean's job, which I can kind of understand from his point. He felt like he could have been seriously injured, but obviously from my point of view, I love Herb Dean. I like the fact that Herb, if he dies. Dean kind of lets the fight go a little bit because it kind of limits the fact because everybody when most of the time when people stop it, they always, especially when we're talking about coming up soon, people think, and the O'Malley fight, people think are usually early stoppages. But for me, I do have a picture of Herb Dean up on my wall. Um, Not just a picture of him, that'd be kind of weird, but I have a signed picture of Ryan Bader and Herb Dean's in it, and I think he's a pretty good guy. He did come out with a video kind of explaining himself, but moving on to the biggest fight of the night, we got my namesake, another Justin from Arizona. Obviously, our legacy runs deep out here. If you know, you know. Um, but we got Justin Gaethje from Stafford, Arizona, taking on Ilia Topuria, one of the most, on an insane streak. They both come out of the Oval Office. Gaethje just came off a win against Paddy Pimblett. He's kind of the pretty big underdog, honestly, against Ilia Topuria. They come in amazing first round. They're letting haymakers go. Second round, Topuria gets a nice knockdown and pretty much lays on him the rest of the round. And then from there on out, Gaethje just shows what American power is like on that White House lawn. Beats the brakes off of Ilia Topuria. He can't even see. He looks you don't even know what he looks like. He looks insane. He pretty much destroyed that guy's face, broke both orbital bones. Insane fight. The American underdog brings it home on the White House lawn. What more can you want?
Dude, this fight had me fired up. I was watching this at my buddy Zeke's house, and everyone seemed to be rooting for Topuria. I felt like the only guy rooting for Gaethje, and they're all talking crap about it. Topuria went out to go get his celebratory dinner the night before. I think he got what he had coming to him. I mean, I was hoping Gaethje would get it like he would get this win, but Topuria's been dominant. He's a hard opponent to face. I'm just happy that this ended the way it did. And I'm glad it went to round four. It was a close fight at the start. It was a close fight, from round one. It was, I'd say, Gaethje 9-10, and then Topuria takes it, and then Gaethje just takes it from there. Just beats the brakes off Topuria.
Yeah, this is my most anticipated fight to watch just because I've been getting into UFC more recently, but Ilia Topuria obviously has been really good since I've been getting into it, so he's been one of my favorite fighters to watch. Um, but yeah, obviously Gaethje comes in as an underdog, wins on, at the White House. What more could you ask for from him? I picked Poirier to win. I don't know if I already said that, but so he also cooked my bet. But um, it was a really fun fight to watch. Gaethje was throwing some haymakers to Poirier, didn't even look recognizable at the end. I kind of thought it was a good fight at the beginning just because Poirier took him down and then he was kind of like crawling all over him, and I thought he might have a chance now because that just seemed to like expel all his energy kind of, and he didn't really have much left for the rest of the fight.
Yeah, I think that's what Gaethje had over Topuria was he's been in those moments where he's been able to climb back after, being taken down, like losing all his energy. I think he just had him beat from his endurance and his energy. I mean, he stuck in it all round, like round one, two, three, and four, and he just never slowed down.
Yeah, this is a guy who's been through everything you can pretty much do in an MMA career. All he needed was that, elusive, undisputed championship. And I thought it was going to be a good fight, but did I think Justin could potentially win this fight? I wasn't too sure. Ilya's coming off beating Max Holloway, Volk, and a Charles Oliveira win. That was, kind of daunting task for Justin, but he goes out there, he does it. We get to see the iconic backflip off the octagon on the White House lawn where he does almost break his neck. I'm not gonna lie. He was like couple inches away from snapping that neck, but you know, I s- Ilya's been, a little bit more cocky. One of his things was he left a rose by Justin Gaethje's picture. He obviously had that day before celebratory dinner. He had 18 and 0 in his Instagram bio, and I did see someone DM him and they posted it and they said, when that Face ID starts working, make sure you change it to 17 and 1. Um, but it was an amazing fight. And Ilya's still gonna be up there. He wants that rematch, but for someone that's kind of been, more of a dormant fighter that doesn't really fight all that much, having broken two orbital bones is gonna keep him out for a little bit. So I don't know when he'll fight again, but it should be a good fight.
All right, after all that, we're finally getting to our patented segment. I know everyone, even though we've had a lot of fun stuff to talk about this week, everyone's just been dying to get to this point. Um, and you deserve it for sitting through such a long episode this week, but hopefully you enjoy it. We get to the powerhouse segment of three up and three down. Um, I'll let Max introduce it and give his three ups.
All right, so if you're not familiar with our show, Three Up, Three Down is basically our patented segment where we break down three ups from this last week and three downs. It could be fun, it could be something sad, but let's get into it. Since I get to start off, my first up is Penn State legend Bo Nickel getting that dub. You know, I was really excited for this fight just because, I was anticipating more of just a wrestling match and it exceeded my expectations. It was done quick, but it wasn't what I expected and I was happy about that.
What isn't there to say? This is a Max's former classmate. Um, This is a guy that gets an amazing win over Dawkins. He's been looking pretty solid on the White House lawn, kept the streak alive of having a card that had only finishes. Great card, great fight. What's there more to say?
Yeah, obviously Max has his ties to Penn State. Um, so, exciting to see that win for him. Uh, I wish I could have watched this fight. It was one of the ones I didn't get to see, but uh, you know, every fight was a good one. They all ended. Um, what's it called? They all ended in a finish, so it was a good fight.
Yeah, for sure. And my next up, it's Mikal Bridges gets that ring. You know, seeing him leave Phoenix was super sad for me. Him and Cam Johnson. I loved those guys. I loved watching him play with Phoenix. And, I wanted to see the Spurs win, but there are pros to come out of this. And one of them was seeing Mikal Bridges get that ring.
Obviously, a Phoenix Suns legend was part of the team that went all the way to the finals. It sucks that they blew it up and got rid of him and traded for KD. You always think about what could have been, but happy to see him not blow a 2-0 lead for once and to get that ring. especially with his boys from Villanova.
Yeah, the Nova Knicks, that was a pretty fun thing to see. They all won it in college and now they're winning it in the NBA. This is one of the teams that just has so much fun in their post game like press conferences when they're not, out there playing, they're all talking to each other. You can see that they're a real big brotherhood over in New York. And to see a former Suns legend finally get his ring and seeing him cry after that, it's like, man, I really wish I could have seen that back in 2021, but a ring's a ring no matter what, and he was one of the leading parts on that team, so it's great to see it regardless.
Yeah, for sure. And my last up is gonna be Sean Strickland's shenanigans out in DC. He wasn't allowed to come watch the fight, but he was out with the fans, letting him, he's kicking them on their shins, and what didn't it end with him being escorted out by security for, I don't know, something?
Yeah, he wasn't invited, but he went anyways, and then he was causing a whole bunch of stuff, so got arrested and charged. But obviously, he's an interesting guy. Um, it was funny to see all that and what he was posting on social media and stuff.
Yeah, we got a car with Derek Lewis, Josh Hokett, Sean O'Malley. We need a little bit more of those shenanigans. So, Sean had to make himself known. And I know Dana White mentioned it. He's like, this is like a guy I did not want here, especially with the way he talks. But he still showed up anyway, did his, typical Sean Strickland things and went out in a Sean Strickland way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if that's all I got for my ups. I'm gonna pass it to the greatest person of all time to step foot in the Daytona 500 Raceway, my boy Justin.
Man, I could sit here and list 500 reasons why I like that interview or that introduction. But it is true. I was in Daytona on the raceway, but that's a different story. DM me if you want to hear that. But first up on the ups, this has just been, ever since the last podcast, there's just been so much to talk about. I could have had, 15 ups if I really wanted to. But first off, I got to start with in the NBA finals, so much went on, but it's going to be the Pat McAfee, because he did call a game on ESPN for this finals. And let me just say, this was a spark of life for broadcasting because he's a guy that is a football player. And there was times throughout where he was like, I have no idea what's going on. This is just so energetic. He was, not using too much vulgar language. Like he was cussing a lot, but he wasn't going like too insane. And that's what kind of made it fun. He was calling out like he had Tracy Morgan on it who said that the Statue of Liberty was going to get pregnant if the Knicks won. Like there was just a lot going on. It was so funny to listen to. It like normally I do listen to the commentary but also watch the game, but being able to watch the game and hear like funny commentary the whole time was just amazing to watch. Especially when you have Kendrick Perkins, also like giving a little bit more breakdown. You get to hear like the comedy and the analytic side of it, which was super fun to listen to.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great personality to have on there. I mean, I love Pat McAfee. I've been following his show for a while now. I think he's a funny guy, and I think to match him up with Perk is so funny. It's a great up.
Yeah, obviously, I feel like everyone who follows sports has seen stuff from Pat McAfee, whether you follow him or not. Um, but yeah, he's been doing those style broadcasts on college football for a while now. And I've been watching them. They've been fun to watch. Usually I'll watch the broadcast too, like Justin said, but of course, his clips get posted everywhere, so you see the clips from his broadcast all the time. He's been doing college football for a little bit, so cool to see him transition into the NBA and try to take that on and bring some energy.
Yeah. All right. Next up, I have no idea how to say his name, but I looked it up anyway. So I'm just not even going to butcher it. But shout out to the guy that made the 82 and 0 game. Uh, this has had not only me, but pretty much the entire sports world, especially basketball fans, in a chokehold this past like month. Like it feels like every day, if I have a downtime, I am trying to get that coveted 82 and 0 team. I know I've been sharing my teams with Gabe to see his opinion. Me and him both have had that 80, 81 and 1 team. We're just trying to finally get that 82 and 0 team. But yeah, this guy, I don't like. I'm surprised it just took to now to get a game like this. But man, I see one of my followers, one of a close friend, Terrence Ross, playing the game. I see everybody playing this game, and it's so fun to see the community coming around a game like this.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I play it pretty much every day. I've been trying out the different ones too because they just came out with MLB one and an NFL one. They've been really fun. I did go 82 and 0 on the Classic Edition, so it doesn't really count because I didn't use the Hoop IQ. Um, but the team I went 82 and 0 with was Giannis, Tracy McGrady, Rick Barry, Charles Barkley, and Bob Pettit. Somehow I had a team on the Hoop IQ mode with Michael Jordan, LeBron, and Shaq, and went 73 and 9. So I don't really know about that, but yeah, I've been playing a bunch.
Yeah, I haven't really played it yet. I'll have to get on it. I didn't really know about it until now, so gave me something to do in a daily routine.
Yes, sir. Last up, this one might seem like Glaze because he's my favorite F1 racer of all time. But I've been liking him ever since him and Fernando Alonso, I think, was on McLaren. And Fernando, uh, when Fernando didn't want to get staged up by a rookie, so he sat in the pit stop for a while and made Lewis miss getting out. But it's gonna be Lewis Hamilton. He gets his first win with Ferrari uh, at his last race. Last year he had a pretty abysmal year for him. Like this guy really didn't do much. He only led like 2 laps maybe total for the whole season. Maybe like I don't even think he podiumed once. And this year he's had 4 podiums, a second place, and a win. So it's great to see him come back. Maybe he can get that elusive ninth championship. I know there's that whole ordeal with him not having eight, but they're just liars. Um, and finally cement that career and have the most championships as a Formula One driver since he's tied with Schumacher. And speaking of Schumacher, that where they won last time he raced was where Schumacher got his first win for Ferrari as well. So kind of bringing that history along with him in this big win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know it's a big win for him, but an even bigger win for Justin. I haven't met a bigger Lewis Hamilton fan than Justin, so
Yeah, I really don't follow F1. I know our boy Zeke has been trying to get me into it, just by like showing me clips and stuff, but um I really like the F1 movie, but um I don't really follow it much, so I don't got much to add, but I'm glad you found that as an up.
Yes, sir. So now passing the mic to do his 3 ups. Bennu legend. Uh, friend of a lion. You know, this guy. I can't say it enough. This guy threw not only a perfect game, but he also went down as one of the greatest players in Mesa baseball history. Gabriel LeBron Watubowicz.
Thank you. I always appreciate the intros from Justin. But yeah, let's get into it. My first up has to go to one of the greatest pitching performances I've seen in my lifetime. Obviously, you could talk about the Kerry Wood 20 strikeout game, the Randy Johnson 20 strikeout game, Randy Johnson perfect game. Obviously other perfect games out there, but I wasn't alive to see those ones. Um, the other day, Jacob Mizorowski went out there through a complete game shutout, retired the side in order every inning, but he did give up a hit. Had 15 strikeouts, under 100 pitches. Of course, after he gave up the hit, he got a double play turn, so faced the minimum amount of batters. Was just one single away from a perfect game, but that was probably the greatest pitching performance I've seen with my own 2 eyes.
yeah, man, this guy you see every outing he puts up, he deserved that one. He's an absolute dog. It's a shame he's in the Central because, you know, he makes Paul Skeens look embarrassing right now. But yeah, I mean, this guy's nasty. He's thrown 105, absolute cheese, the dirtiest off speeds I've ever seen. This guy is a stud.
Exactly. I don't think they're really missing Freddie too much with the way that he's been pitching. This is a Gabe with two wits look-alike, not only pitching style, but also looks wise. They look pretty similar to each other.
And he's Polish.
And he's Polish, and he's tall, and he's skinny. So, like, what is there more to say? These two are meant to be best friends. So yeah.
Yeah, my next up we talked about a lot, obviously, is Justin Gaethje. He just needs some glasses. My next up is Justin Gaethje. Obviously, goes into the White House facing a foreign fighter. Even though I like Ilia Topuria, Justin Gaethje's a Arizona native, and doesn't fight out of Arizona, but born here, obviously, and goes out to the White House, wins the belt. It was a great fight. It was cool to see him go out there and just get after him, and he kind of beat Taporia into a pulp. It was a good fight to watch.
Absolute dog. We get two wins that night, because Arizona doesn't really get a lot of wins. We get a fighter fighting out of Arizona getting a win and a fighter born and raised in Arizona getting a win. This was a great fight. This is a great just fight card, awesome event, and I think I covered it just in case she's my goat.
USA, USA, USA. What more can I say? Justin Gaethje beats the Georgian. Obviously, probably gonna get copyright strike.
I was about to say, and we're copyrighted.
We're gonna get a copyright strike up and playing Freebird. But if they knew it was for America, they should let it slide. I don't care. USA on top. Justin Gaethje's him. He's probably gonna go down as the greatest fighter of all time behind John Jones. I love America. What's there more to say? Freebird all day.
Yeah. My last up is gonna be OG Ananobi. That game four, I believe, when OG Anunoby was kind of the hero for the Knicks. Obviously, Josh Hart misses that dunk, and the Spurs still have the lead at that point, I believe. And then De'Aaron Fox gets a steal. He's going down the other way. Some things could be said about that, but then OG Anunoby comes out, gets the chase down block on him, and then obviously Knicks get the ball back. They got a chance to go up. I think Jalen Brunson took the last shot. He misses. OG Anunoby comes flying in out of nowhere, gets the tip put back layup to go, puts the Knicks up. The Knicks hang on to win. Just some incredible heroics there to. If Brunson didn't have that game five that he had, I think OG could have been the favorite to win MVP after that.
Yeah, I mean, the ending to that game was absolutely insane. I believe it was said that Fox thought he could outrun OG Anunoby. He'll never make that mistake again in his life. Because when he was asked, they're like, "What were you thinking? Why did you not just, dribble the ball like anybody else would?" He's like, "I just thought I could outrun all of them." Nope, not in OG Anunoby's house.
Blocked by OG Ananobi. I'm glad that he brought this up. I love OG Ananobi. This guy was a dog when he won the chip with the Raptors. I think he's so funny. He's a little bit odd. When he has that post game press conference where he wasn't smiling after the game winner. He goes has an amazing game. He was shooting like almost like 60% from three throughout the finals, like 70% as a whole. Insane clip. And, this is a guy that I just want to shout this part out, but when Jalen Brunson became the captain and it's just you can see his eyes in the video, and he's like, congratulations, Jalen. Like it is like one of the funniest clips ever. So like I'm glad that OG Anunoby found his way into a 3-0-3 down segment. I was thinking about putting him, but obviously I was being, kind of a little bit more creative. Obviously that's a good one, but I was trying to find, a little bit more niche stuff. But I love the pick. Great job, Gabe. Well deserved. If you know, you know.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm gonna give it back to Justin to do the downs.
Yippee. Um, I don't mind. So first up, it's gonna be my second 303 down about this finals. It's gonna be Mason Plumlee. This guy didn't play a single minute, but I had to put him on here because it was also during the Pat McAfee broadcast. He was sitting with his hands, on his chin, kind of looking like he was thinking. And Pat McAfee says, uh, Mason's wondering why he wasn't born like Wemby because he'd be on the court if he was. And I was like, bro, why are we picking on Mason Plumlee?
Yeah.
That's a creative down. Obviously, Suns legend was super buns when he was here, but um, you know, just got flamed for no reason. But that was a good one.
Yeah, don't be hating on my boy Plum Dog Millionaire.
It's hard to hate on a guy that's a natural righty and was shooting absolutely abysmal from the free throw line, so he just decided to switch to his left hand for no reason and actually started shooting well. So why are we hating on him?
Yeah.
But next up, another kind of funny one. All right, my next down is another kind of funny one. It is Pavin Smith. More so like the Diamondbacks social media team. But they're, obviously every team puts out who you should vote for the All-Star game, and somehow Pavin Smith snuck into that post for whatever reason, even though he's only played 17 games.
Walk
Um,
off Pavin Smith, baby.
the red-headed legend besides Archie Bradley. Um, but obviously somehow Pavin Smith made it onto an All-Star game post. Don't know if he's got a single vote, but I thought that was kind of funny.
I will say, not only has he only played like 20 games, maybe they might have been the worst 20 games I've ever seen in my life. I think he's batting below 100. His OPS is like 400 or something. Just not a good, hasn't been a good showing from Paven here. But I mean, Torrey and Mike Hazen seem to think he's gonna, get back on track. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I had high hopes for Pavin Smith 3, 4 years ago. Now it's just kind of, he hasn't really done anything. But, he's got one home run on the season. What is that, a walk-off home run? So maybe he turns up.
Yeah, I had to put it as a down. I know it's kind of random, but I could just imagine Pavin Smith sitting at home with his, loving wife and kid and just gets a tag from the Diamondbacks. Obviously he's a little confused because he's been pretty much absent. He's been Where's Waldo for this team. And he opens his phone and he sees vote Pavin Smith for All-Star game. And it's like, bro, what? You're up there with Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll and, some other people like Vargas who had like a pretty good hitting streak going on. So I thought that like was pretty funny. It's kind of the same reason I voted for Volpe at DH. But anyway, my last down. This one kind of similar to Gabe's up, but I just had to say it. It's got to be De'Aaron Fox, just because this guy he looked pretty bad. Like he was not really the Robin that this team wanted. In those last couple games, he looked bad. Like he had that bad turnover at the end of the game in game five. He dribbled down the court in game five and got blocked by OG instead of just dribbling the ball out and wasting time or even pump faking and going up for a foul. I don't know why he just went up. Even if you thought you were faster, you probably should have just dribbled it out. Um, and then he's pretty much the reason that they lost game five. If it wasn't already for that, he for some reason left OG Anunoby wide open on the 3-point line to go help on Jalen Brunson, who yeah is hot and can shoot, but you have a 7'4" defensive player of the year on him. So I don't know why he felt the need to leave OG Anunoby. And then OG did end up getting the game winning tip in. So, and not only that, but he was also late on covering Jalen Brunson. So even if he was trying to help and like trap him, he was still late. So I don't really know exactly what he was doing there. I know fans are calling for, started a GoFundMe to pay out the rest of his contract to get him off the team. And I've obviously, I've kind of liked him since he was on the Kings, but obviously looking at that from a, that he's a professional player making some of these bad moves in a big game like that just can't happen.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised Justin put this one because before the podcast he said we wouldn't have any of the same ups and downs, but that was one of my downs as well. Um, I've seen people saying that he should have won Finals MVP, um, for how bad he was playing those last couple of games and just some of the mistakes he made. Um, but yeah, obviously it's his first finals. I get he's a veteran, but those were definitely some interesting choices he made.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what was going through his head those 2 games, but I understand the Spurs frustration. I've seen I don't know about you guys, but I've seen people saying that he could be exactly what Phoenix needs, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, I've also heard people saying that he should be arrested for stealing $40 million from the Spurs, but hopefully he can get it under control
Yeah.
and run it back with Wemby and be that Robin that Wemby needs.
Hmm.
Because if not, they still have two amazing guards in Castle and
Yeah.
Harper that are just going to
That
take his spot right away from him.
Yeah.
and he's gonna be making a lot of money. It's gonna cook them pretty soon.
Yeah,
I think he makes
exactly.
60 mil in a couple years, so
Oh, this guy just loves robbing the Spurs. If they do end up somehow giving him a contract after that, he'd be lucky to make
Right.
like a million a year. But anyway, um, I'm gonna pass it over to my guy Triple D, the dog of downs. I'm gonna the third D comes in because unlike De'Aaron Fox, I'm gonna get the ball to him and not turn it over. Maxwell Brummett.
Thanks for the introduction. I don't, might be the best one yet. All right, for my first down, I kind of talked about it earlier, Philadelphia turning their season around completely and being second in their division, but them being the Pirates being the worst team in Pennsylvania. Like the Pirates have been in a division where everyone was basically over 500 and the Phillies were below that margin for a while, and now they take it and they're what, like 40 and something, and I don't know. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be an Area 480 podcast if there wasn't some biased pirate stuff.
Obviously I was just in Pennsylvania. I was in the winning city of Philadelphia. Obviously I do want to see the Pirates do good for Max. Not only are they not looking too good, they have some, injuries. They have Paul Skeens not playing up to his potential. They lost the poop game. There's just a lot going on for this, Pirates franchise. And speaking on that Paul Skeens stuff, I feel bad for him because these Pirates fans have to break out the emotional support blanket every time he comes up to pitch because either he's letting up seven runs or he's going a full game and not letting up a single run. So obviously kind of up and down so far, but I hope that they can get it figured out for Max and he can see some success in his future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is kind of, I feel like the Pirates have done this the last like 4 years where they start out really hot and everyone's like, is this finally the year the Pirates do it? And then they kind of come back down to the 500 team that, they've been. Um, it's kind of the same thing with the D-backs the last few years, but um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, even with the offense playing good this year, the starting pitching has taken a step back. Jared Jones, I know, just came back, but he hasn't really looked like himself. Mitch Keller hasn't looked like himself. Paul Skeens, even though he's still been dominant, hasn't looked like himself. So if the offense can keep it up, hopefully the starting pitching can just return to form. They should still be solid. And especially if they hang around, the wild card, they could be buyers at the trade deadline, and it'd be interesting to see who they pick up then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's crazy that Braxton Ashcraft has been like the second best pitcher in that that lineup. But for my second down, it'll probably piggyback off this last one. But Paul Skeens in his last five starts have all been a loss. I mean, I know some of them have been, he doesn't have offense, and then the other ones have just been absolutely atrocious. But I mean, he's in two of them. It's been only one earned run, and they've lost 9-11. The most he's given up in those last five games is four runs. But I mean, it shows that you know the offense can only do so much. He can only do so much, but it is unfortunate that he's lost five straight.
Obviously this is unfortunate for Pirates fans when you have one of the most feared pitchers the past couple seasons and how he looked for Team USA. He looked super solid and he actually started showing some emotion when he played for Team USA, and now he's just kind of been a little bit up and down for the most part, which you don't want to see, especially for a guy that's pretty wholesome. He just goes out there, does what he needs to do, and goes home for the day. He's not a very big, flashy guy, but obviously he's one of those big, tough white boys that can go out there and get the job done. So hopefully he can figure it out, just like this Pirates team, and you know get it down.
Yeah. I when he first got in the league, I thought he was gonna be like a Jacob deGrom type, where he's just super dominant, but the Pirates don't have the offense to get him wins. But their offense has turned it around this year, and he still isn't getting wins. So I don't know if it's just they don't score when he pitches type thing or what it is, but hopefully he can get back on track here soon.
Yeah, for sure. For my last down, it's that second backflip from Justin Gaethje. I genuinely thought he might have snapped his neck right after winning, like one of the highest moments of his life, becoming the lowest. He's just passed out on the mat. Luckily, it didn't end that way, but I don't even know what happened. It looked like he just was bouncing off the first backflip and turned into another one.
Yeah, I mean that's his signature thing is the backflip off the top. Um, I don't even he like stumbled backwards and just like landed on his neck. But so that was interesting to see. Um, but yeah, it was good to see that he was okay after that because that was a little scary for a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second he hit that ground, I was like, "Yep, his neck's gone." It's like, and it's not helping him with the allegations of him not being able to read from getting
Yeah.
punched in the head so much. I saw people saying that he was just standing there looking at the declaration, just wondering what it said. And then even after the fight, he was saying that he didn't know what it said because they spoke a different language back then. So obviously, it doesn't help his case that he probably just, got more traumatic brain injury. But obviously, never good to win a fight like that and then immediately land on your neck right afterwards.
Yeah. I'm sure adrenaline made him get up way too quick.
Oh yeah, his neck is going to be was probably stiff the day
Yeah,
after.
probably.
Yeah. All right, yeah. If that's all you guys got, I'm gonna pass it to my catch partner for life, Gabe Otubowitz.
Yes, sir. Sad to see those days in the past now, but um anyways, my downs, obviously we covered one is gonna be De'Aaron Fox. I just don't know what he was thinking. That was uh you know, that was interesting for sure. Getting a lot of flack for it, obviously. And then my second down is gonna be fan voting for the MLB All-Star game because what are we doing? We just need to come together as a society and not allow Phillies, Dodgers, and Blue Jays fans to ruin the votes for everyone else. Because there's no
Mhm.
way that, Mookie Betts, that's probably the most egregious one I know is that Mookie Betts is second for shortstops when his OPS probably isn't even 700 right now. Um, and then obviously the two Phillies that are on there. It just makes no sense, especially because Corbin Carroll doesn't hold an outfield spot and Teoscar Hernandez does. It's a crime to see. Especially, I know we've moved away from it now, but if Hall of Fame voters are going to be using All-Star appearances to determine if a player gets into the Hall of Fame or not, like that should not be decided by Dodgers fans voting for Teoscar Hernandez and Mookie Betts when they are 45 years old and barely playing baseball anymore.
Yeah, this is really annoying to see. I'm a D1 Dodgers hater, and I don't even think that part of me needs to come out to realize these guys should not be this high up in the All-Star voting. And it's just so annoying. I mean, like you said, the Phillies and Blue Jays too, but especially the Dodgers. Like, honestly, and it hurts me to say this, but Max Muncy is the only one that really deserves it, and Shohei Ohtani. Other than that, it shouldn't really be those other guys. Like, Will Smith deserves it, but he's injured. So why are we putting Mookie Betts and Teoscar Hernandez up there? Even Kyle Tucker.
Oh boy, we get to watch the rematch of the last year's, World Series. We get to see that. Um, but obviously that is true. I'm trying to be one of those, more passive, more, shouting out to those guys who deserve it when I do my all-star votes. I'm trying to be one of those one percenters that look at stats and not just be a fan. I didn't even have a Diamondbacks player. So,
Well, you had a few former ones.
yeah, but obviously I'm not just going based off.
Honestly, I'd rather have Justin's vote than a Dodgers fan ballot, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
bad. Like obviously we're gonna see. I can't wait to see. Um, uh, I can't wait to see Alec Bohm is up there. I can't wait to see Alec Bohm had a fly out to Andy Pajes in the All Star game. Yeah, like that's like an average Sunday game that you're gonna go watch. But yeah, some of the All Star voting is pretty egregious. Like Teoscar Hernandez, I haven't even seen him play a single game this year. Why is he above Corbin Carroll? This guy is literally like lead about to lead if he's not already leading the league in triples. Like this guy is insane, playing his mind off. And we got
Yeah.
ancient Teoscar Hernandez, who's not even the best Hernandez in the league anymore.
Uh, yeah, it's kind of become a joke, um, especially with like the fan base that Yamamoto and Otani and Sasaki bring to the Dodgers. There's some fans overseas probably skewing some of the voting too. But um, but yeah, my last down is gonna be Brandon Sorsby, just because he kind of cooked his career. Obviously, we don't know that he could go into the supplemental draft and still be good in the NFL, but to see him get that NIL deal from Texas Tech, who was trying to bolster their offense after some of their QB play last year, and then just to see him kind of throw it all down the drain there, by betting on players at some of his own schools that he was at in the past. And now he can't play for Texas Tech this year, so interesting to see how that all unfolded. But yeah, I don't know, just kind of threw it all away there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same freaking tale. Just you think these guys would learn. You see it all the time in these other leagues. It's not gonna work. It's not worth it. You're gonna ruin your career, yet you're still gonna do it. Like, I don't know. It is really unfortunate that his career may be over because of that, but he did it to himself.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying. This guy is going into the draft and he might potentially get picked up for like by an NFL team, even though he's done stuff he shouldn't be doing, because of his skill level, obviously. People can change, but at the end of the day, obviously not being able to play for Texas Tech, even though he was allowed to, but just teams weren't liking it, really doesn't seem like all that big of a deal for what he did. When there's people who like this, it's close to home. Like, yeah, I know Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups and Jonte Porter are all like in prison for what they've been doing, but someone like Malik Beasley, who's actually like a good guy, had betting allegations placed against him because people didn't like how he was playing, even though he came off his a career year, is out of the NBA and playing overseas because nobody like he didn't get picked up by a team because they already spent all their money by the time they figured out he was not guilty. And this guy literally admitted it, and he's probably going to get a shot in the league, even though, he has all these issues. And if he's making a lot of money, if he believes in himself, he's probably going to make the money. He's not going to need to bet. Obviously, betting is fun, but to do it in that fashion, I just don't think was the right way to do it.
Yeah, just some of the punishments they hand out sometimes are like just don't make sense based off, earlier examples. This being one of them, but I don't know. Maybe he'll get picked up by a team that really needs a quarterback and he'll live up to the potential that, everyone knows he has. But man, it's just an interesting situation all around.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's my last down. That's all I got.
Yeah, so hope you guys come back next week. We can't we just love filming these for you. Maybe next week I'll be a down because unlike Gabe and Max, I don't have a lifetime throwing partner. Seems like I get switched up every time when I was playing softball. I always get stuck with the Zane of the group. So hopefully, I can find my future catching partner eventually.
We'll find you one, Justin.
Um, yeah, long episode this week. Thank you if you stuck through the whole thing. Hopefully you enjoyed some of our takes. Feel free to disagree with them in the comments if you do. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. We'll be back soon.